a lot of outstanding news for women's cricket in the last week. I think history has been made in unbelievable fashion. So, well, firstly, the Indian women's team won the very first under-19 T20 Women's World Cup.
Yep.
And
The
that
Aussies choked it.
Oh,
Oh, look at the pain on
the only
Lockie
thing is,
McCurdy's
so
face.
I was watching Australia got beaten by England in the semi-final, and I think England got to, 97 or something? Or
Yeah, they were 6 for 40 odd. They scraped their way to, I think, 96, 97. Oh, and then the Aussies just... It was a good performance by the England bowlers, but the Aussies just threw their wickets away. It was so frustrating. It was like they had a spot in the final in their hands.
I agree, but it's amazing in women's cricket, especially at that age. Like, if you get to 100, you're in the game. So I thought Australia probably let them off with the ball more than with the bat. But just for India to win that tournament, I mean, we'll get on to the women's IPL, but just you think about when the men's team won the T20 World Cup, what that did for the sport in that country. I mean, surely now India will just throw everything at women's cricket.
I mean, they are.
Oh,
Yeah, we've
They
seen
already are.
We've seen the prices that have been going around for the
so
WPL.
So they just sold their 5 women's IPL franchises, and they were bought for a total of 800 million Aussie dollars, or over 800 million Aussie dollars. That's,
Incredible.
some were more than others, and some of the I think Adani bought one, so that'll be fun for the players playing for them. But still, that's just incredible.
It is, and I think that at that under-19 World Cup, you saw Shafali Verma was there as the captain. She got really emotional during the presentation, and it showed how much it has meant to this Indian team to know that they're part of this generation, that they're winning World Cups before the WPL, and now that they're going to be in a position where these under-19 kids are going to be the future of the WPL in terms of they're the ones who are going to be bought up in this first auction and become franchise players over the next however many years, that it's going to be scary to see what they can become with this amount of money behind them. And obviously we talk, and from an Australian lens, we focus on the life-changing amounts of money that some of our players are going to get. But I think the focus has to be on what this is going to do for Indian cricket.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I worry about what it means for the WBBL. And it's such a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you want to see, and let's be honest, Australia has been just so far ahead of the pack when it comes to women's cricket that something needs to be done to sort of invigorate those other sides. But it does worry me about what happens to the WBBL, and it was interesting to hear. I asked a couple of the female cricketers. And they said, well, we always hope that the WBBL, like, there's never has to be a choice, that you can always balance both. And I just thought to myself, I love that in theory, but I think one day there'll have to be a choice. And why wouldn't you choose a lot more money?
Yeah, and it's not even the same as in if like the BCCI said you can't go, or it clashes with international cricket, like in the men's situation. It's also a lot of these women's players, it's a time thing, it'll be the Women's Premier League, then the 100, then the WBBL. That's sort of a pretty 6 month straight of solid cricket. So I guess that the fact that the rewards financially are better will hopefully keep more of them coming to the WBBL, but we'll have to keep pace with wages. Like
and
it'll
that's
be,
going to quickly...
I'll rest when the WBBL is on.
Yeah, quickly, I think quickly that decision's going to have to come up.
I sort of feel like just generally women's cricket in India is a bit like where the men's sort of thing was, where, when Australia was dominating in the early 2000s, there was a few whispers like, India's coming, like, just watch out.
Yeah.
Once this all comes to fruition, they're going to challenge, and they have.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it affects the women's international schedule. Because, I mean, we saw 6 Aussie games this summer, and it wasn't many already, and one of them all got washed out. Some of them got rain affected, and it's like, do we need more international cricket? Like, obviously everyone calls them all women's tests, but the more we see, obviously India's going to start this league. Pakistan's starting one later this year. There's going to be other countries starting leagues. That this is going to grow into a state where they go, okay, let's fit a small window for the internationals and then let them go in their money, because it is the way that they're going to have. A lot of the current players have a lot smaller careers than the players that are going to come after them. So giving them that maximum amount of time to monetize their cricketing worth is going to be important to them, and that's understandable.
Imagine Rachel Haynes. She's like, damn, just retired.
Yeah.
Then So the Women's Premier League, they're going to have 90 players, 5 squads of 18. 30 of those players will be overseas players. What is your prediction of that 30? How many will be Australians? I think you're going to have at least half will be Australians, maybe as many as 20.
I think you're right.
You've got to remember that. So of the 30, so there's only 25 that can be associate. Sorry, 5.
That's right. They have one from each associate nation.
Yeah, so there's only 25
right,
of
okay.
only 25 of them are possible to be Aussies. I think it'll still be about that half, but yeah, that limits
More
it down
15.
to 12, 13, something like that, and it's going to be interesting to see whether someone like a Laura Harris, who is known for her ability to hit 60 off 20 balls, takes the spot of a Grace Harris. Like it's
right.
going to be really fascinating to see how deep they go, because as far as I'm aware, all the Aussie contracted players have put their name in the auction. About 3/4 of Australia's domestic players have also put their name in the auction. Everyone's just gone, let's just
Let's
put our
have a
name in,
crack.
let's see what happens.
Because our players are so experienced because of the WBBL, they'd be crazy not to sign them. I guess you look at some players in England team, really great players that could be signed, a couple in the Kiwi team, and then, I just think we'll see a lot of our, and the other thing is our players are going to be vital to this league, because when you think about the stars of international women's cricket, you think about the Australian team. It is, Meg Lanning, Elisa Healy, Elise Perry. They're going to drive the growth of this new league. So they are crucial to it.
Yeah, true.
Now, last thing on women's cricket, and it's an interesting one. News has come out, and the Women's T20 World Cup is starting next week in South Africa. And the captain of the host nation, Dane van Niekerk, has been dropped effectively because she failed a 2-kilometre time trial. So she had to do 2 kilometres in 9 minutes 30 seconds. It'd take me like 25 minutes. And she did it in 9 minutes 48 seconds, which is the personal best for her. But she was left out because she didn't meet the fitness criteria. At a home World Cup, you captain 18 seconds. I mean, Jaleesa, is this just coaches gone crazy?
My first thought when I read this is there has to be more to it, right?
Well, I think the ongoing issue is that there's been an issue with fitness around the South African team. I think this issue happened with Lizelle Lee, who was dropped from a team for not being fit enough. And I think this has been an ongoing issue where they're trying to get their players fitter. So I think,
I think to drop somebody from a side, sure, is there maybe personality?
So she is coming back from quite a long-term injury. She hasn't played for quite a while, but when she left the team before she got injured, she was the captain. So
Yeah.
she's the leader of this side. Obviously, her partner is there as well.
Arizona Cap.
Yeah, so
Both been on this show.
both integral parts of this South African side at a home World Cup. You'd think that leadership factor would kind of count for a bit more. I mean,
it's not like she missed it by March.
No. And
Like
and how much running are you doing during a T20 game?
Exactly,
Sure,
but-
you're fielding a bit, but you could,
And how
as
much you
Socky
can-
has proved, he can hide it fine leg.
He
Yeah,
can make him pull a calf injury whenever he wants.
yeah.
Fidoza Munda has reported that she's lost 10 kilos since the 100 last year, so she's a lot fitter than she was back then after that, injured and not. So I just think
I
probably...
think this is a very weird test to have in cricket.
Yes, and I don't mind. I just think, when you're looking at 18 seconds, surely, you can just sort of get that through on paperwork and go, well, it's in, there's a 5%. It's 18 seconds over. It's like, 10% will be 95 seconds over. So, the margin is so small, you could just go, well, that was close enough.
I think the other side of the coin, which I don't necessarily agree with, but there are big problems in South African cricket we've seen with both the men's and women's side of things. And especially with the women's side, it feels like they've been underperforming for quite a while, and they want to usher through this new era of change and
Professionalism.
Exactly. And you've got someone like a Laura Vulvart, who is an incredible batter. We've seen a lot of her here in Australia, and just needs a bit more time to show her ability. But you look at the players who have been their standouts, like Lizelle Lee, like you mentioned, she won ICC awards and within 12 months was gone from the side. We got Shabnam Ismail, who's on the other side of 30, same with Marizanne Kapp and Dane van Niekerk, that this is the side that if they wanted to shake up their home World Cup, they needed this experience. And Dane van Niekerk is the one you want there to do it.
Yeah, so I have a lot of sympathy for her. You know,
I feel terrible for
yeah,
her.
I sort of thought, okay, well, if you're the captain, just make sure you do it under 9:30 to set the example. But I don't know.
But maybe you thought you were. Like, it's not that many seconds.
No, that's what I'm
Like,
saying.
it's not like she missed it by minutes.